From the #1 station, this is a story about love. A love story. Music is love, and love is music. Yeah. Sing the song, brother, sing the song. Sing the song, you could never be wrong. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've been waiting for a sign.
Do you hear that?
That's great. If they want to be off at the back, maybe they're eating, maybe they're resting in the shade, wallowing in some mud, doing one of those many great Rhino activities. So that's okay too. A good way to make sure the animals are healthy and staying content and keeping their stress levels down. Give them lots and lots of choices and lots of ability to kind of set their own pace and come and go. Got some elephants swimming in the water right here, doing a bit of fishing, I think. You will see them sometimes dipping those bills down into the water, looking for some fish, and you'll know they caught one when they toss that head back and start shaking it back and forth, trying to get that fish down into the back of their mouth so that they can't eat it. Also got a whole bunch of ducks, and I think maybe a few Canada geese coming in here as well. Some more of that regular old wildlife stopping by for a visit. Yeah, I see a couple of Canada geese down there on the shoreline, a little bit bigger than those ducks. Lots and lots of native waterfowl stopping by here at the safari park to pay a visit. Like up ahead, we're going to have a few antelope species in just a moment as we come up to the southern Africa field habitat. It's a little facsimile of an African savanna. It's got lots of trees, lots of grass, and lots of open space as well. Sounds like pretty standard, straightforward nature stuff, grass and trees, right? But both of them together are actually going to be what makes the savanna different from some other habitats. A forest has lots of trees, but not all that much grass. The grassland has lots and lots of grass, but not really much in the way of trees. The savanna, of course, is going to be like the best of both worlds. It has grass and trees and lots of both. Yeah. It's a great habitat for any animals who need both of those species. Coming up on the right-hand side, we have some yellow-billed storks as well as a few African vulture species. In fact, looks like all three of our vulture species are represented right now. I can see on that log some Cape vultures, who are the light brown color, some blue-petaled vultures, who have the black and white speckles, and up ahead by the front, up by me in the cab, we have a lappet-faced vulture who's got very dark brown feathers sitting on one of those rocks. Whatever the species, though, these vultures, they really don't get enough appreciation for the important role they play. They're like the waste management specialists of the savanna. They can take care of all the old meat, all the rotten food, all the stuff sitting out there in the sun, gathering bacteria, stuff that would make the other animals sick. It's not going to hurt the vultures at all. They can consume all kinds of old rotten things, all kinds of bacteria can go into a vulture, but it's not going to come back out. Things like anthrax and E. coli are no problem for these birds. Their stomach acid's very strong. It breaks down that bacteria, destroys it, and then they don't have to worry about that stuff being out there in the habitat. What is this? It's actually going to make everyone, all the other species, just a little bit healthier and a little bit more disease-free to have those vultures around. On our left, we have some ellipsin waterbuck, those shaggy brown antelope with the white circles on their backside. Those little white circles kind of look like they sat in some paint. But those are actually what we call follow me marks. They're totally natural markings, and they're there in order to help those antelope keep their group together. Kind of like the whole family going on vacation and everybody wearing the same t-shirt. It's a nice, quick, easy way for them to recognize who they're supposed to be following and make sure that nobody gets lost or wanders away.
Holiday t-shirt.
Coming up in just a moment on that same side, we're going to have a herd of sable antelope. We've got some of those dark brown adults with the long curved horns. And a few little babies. There's one kind of digging around in the dirt there. 1, 2, 3. There were 4 baby sables. Oh, there's the 4th one. He's up ahead by that other group. You're the monster. Now, the little ones have got a much lighter color than the adults. That's going to help them camouflage and blend in, helping them stay safe from danger. When they are still very small and vulnerable. These little fellows are going to be probably about 5 weeks old, 4 or 5 weeks. Maybe ranging up to 6 for a couple of the older ones. Got about a 2-week age range on these little babies. And here's that last one up ahead by the swoop here. up ahead, we're going to be approaching some Maasai giraffe. The giraffes are very, very popular animals amongst all of the other species on the African savanna. All the other animals want to hang around close by the giraffe, just like these hemlock antelope here are doing, because the giraffes are kind of like the watchtowers of the savanna. Of course, we all know they're very, very tall, about 16 to 18 feet in height, which is about 5 or 6 meters. And they have very, very good eyesight as well. They can see miles and miles into the distance. It's going to allow them to be the first animal to see any kind of danger approaching. If anything bad's coming, the giraffes are going to know about it before it gets there. So all the other animals hang around close by. They kind of watch those giraffes. If the giraffes are calm and relaxed, all the other animals are going to be relaxed and calm too, because they know the coast is clear. If the giraffes get nervous or afraid, or if they start to run away, everybody else gets up and runs away too, because they know that the giraffe sees something dangerous and they don't want to be left behind. You'll see both the giraffes and the antelope are kind of arranging themselves in a circle. They're all facing different directions. And that's going to help with that safety too. If you cover every different angle, it's going to make sure that nobody's going to be able to sneak up and surprise you. A few more giraffes here demonstrating the other use of that big long neck, reaching up to get their food. Oftentimes the wildlife care staff here at the park will hang those food items up high in those baskets, giving those giraffes a chance to do what they do best and reach up with that big long neck. Out in the wild, of course, it's going to give them the ability to get to the taller parts of the trees, the leaves that none of the other animals can reach. That means they're not going to have to worry too much about having to compete with anyone for their food. More Cape buffalo on the left-hand side. We saw the bachelor herd earlier in the tour. This is the herd of females and calves. So we see a couple of little baby buffalo in there as well. And like we mentioned back at the beginning, those little ones are going to be the reason why those adult buffalo have to be so visible and so tough-looking. Keeping the predators far away is the best way to keep the youngsters safe. Over on the right-hand side, we have some Somali wild asses hanging out in the shade of those trees up there. They look a little bit like a donkey and a little bit like a zebra. They are related to both of those, being equids. Equids are going to be the group that includes donkeys and zebras and horses, and of course wild asses as well. They have that nice silvery gray coat on top that's going to act like pretty good camouflage out in the dry, rocky parts of northeastern Africa where they're often found, like Somalia, for example. And they have those little stripes on their legs, which are actually going to be more follow-me marks, kind of like what we saw on the water buck a minute ago. Only instead of having them on their backside, these wild asses have got them on their legs. But it serves mostly the same purpose, helping give them a nice, easy way to follow the rest of the group. Start to make our way up the hill here. Let's also keep our eyes out on the left-hand side of the vehicle, see if we can spot some of the animals trying to blend in with the habitat here. As we start our transition from the African savanna into a slightly more covered habitat, we're going to see a little bit more in the way of trees and bushes and shade, or at least on a sunny day we see shade. And the animals living here are going to be just a little bit more adapted to life under cover and life in the shadows. I see some zebras up ahead. We'll catch up to them in just a second. I see 1, 2, 3 of our red zebras up here. A little bit of pushing and shoving, a little bit of competition there. Oh, 2 more down at the bottom of the hill. So all 5 zebras out today. Oh, and our 2 eastern black rhinos as well.
There's a rhino.
Our female Aria and our male Kendi. Now the eastern black rhino, something you might notice looking at them, they're actually gray, not really black. That's true for white rhinos as well. White rhinos are gray and black rhinos are gray too. The best way to tell the difference between those two kinds is actually to look at the face. If you look at the faces of those 2 black rhinos down there, they have kind of a pointed mouth, kind of a skinny jaw, and it's going to be very different from the face on a white rhino. A white rhino has a big, wide, square face and a big, square mouth. Since the white rhinos are grazer, they mostly eat grass. They need that big mouth to get lots of amounts of grass in there. The black rhinos here, they're going to be a browser, a leaf eater. So they need that little bit more small and maneuverable head so they can kind of reach up into the trees and go after those leaves. Looks like the zebras ran off around the corner. We'll catch up with them in just a moment, I think. Over on the right-hand side, I see a Cheetah walking along the shoreline there, that little orange antelope with the white stripes on her back. Cheetah, oh, there's two of them. Cheetahs live in the swamp for the most part, so you might notice they're a little bit more pear-shaped, a little bit more round than some of the other antelope we've seen today. A lot of the taller, skinnier antelope are going to be from the grassland or the forest. Being able to run fast or maneuver between trees will be important for them. Because the Cheetah lives in the wetland, a lot of mud, a lot of plants, a lot of obstacles to kind of push through. So they're going to have a little bit extra in the way of muscles in their back legs and muscles on the back side of their body. It's going to give them a little bit more kind of a hump, round shape, but it's going to be pretty useful making your way through the swamp. Of course, they've also got that distinctive orange color, which might not look like very good camouflage, but actually, most of the predators they're trying to avoid, a lot of big cats, a lot of lions, leopards, other large mammals like hyenas, a lot of those big mammals have actually got a limited ability to see color. So colors like orange and green, while they look very different to a primate, they actually look pretty similar to a predator like a lion. So if you've got orange fur, a lion's going to see that as green, and they're going to have a really hard time finding those little animals in and amongst the green grass and the plant life. I think I saw somebody right up here.
There's it.
One more good look at those rhinos across the way there.
Oh, there.
So the black rhino is going to be a little bit more of a solitary species. You might see two of them together like this, but that's going to be about it. You're not going to see a great big group of them all hanging out the way you would with a southern white rhino. And that's habitat related. The black rhino, like I said, they're a leaf eater. They're going to mostly be in kind of a forest or a thicket, a slightly covered area. Of course, that's where those bushes and trees are. And the presence of lots and lots of bushes and trees are going to be great cover to hide a baby rhino behind. Unfortunately, we don't have a baby rhino right now, at least not a baby black rhino, but in that kind of habitat with lots of shade and lots of cover, it's a great place to hide a baby. So you don't really need lots of extra supervision, lots of extra eyes and ears to keep those little ones safe. If you're a black rhino, you can just kind of hide them in the bushes, and that'll help keep them away from predators until they are big and strong like the adults. Of course, there are not really a lot of predators who are going to trouble an adult rhinoceros, and they just simply. Where did those zebras go? I know they ran off this direction. Let's see if we can find them. Here's one. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like all the cool. So the Giraffes zebra, this species right here, the tallest species of zebra, also going to be the most endangered. The habitat where they live is actually pretty vulnerable to changes in the climate and changes in the weather. So as the global weather gets a little bit warmer, the plant life the zebras depend on is going to shrink back more and more. And without those plants, the zebras are going to have a smaller and smaller area in which they can live. So anything that kind of slows the progression of things like climate change, saving energy, reducing emissions, is going to be very, very good for animals like the zebra and other species who live out on the savanna. Going to help keep those range seasons a little bit more regular. Of course, we wouldn't be able to talk about the zebras without talking about those lovely, dazzling stripes all over their body. Zebra stripes are not really for blending in, they're more for confusing. If you stare too closely at one of these zebras, those stripes get a little bit blurry, they kind of start to pop out at you. It's a very, very interesting little visual trick they can do, especially when there's a lot of them together, more than just these 5. When you have 50 zebras all hanging out together, all those stripes kind of blur into one great big shape, like one great big black and white striped blur with a few heads and legs broken out. And that's awfully confusing to predators like lions and leopards and such. And when they can't single out one zebra, when they can't really focus on choosing one shape, that's going to cause them some hesitation. And while those predators are unsure of themselves, it's going to be the perfect opportunity for the zebras to just turn around and run away. Providing a little bit of a distraction like that makes for a nice, easy escape for the zebras. As we actually kind of experienced that a little bit on the way up the hill, we were all looking at them running around, and they just turned the corner and ran off, and they were gone. Luckily for us, we were able to find them again, but yeah, zebras are going to be excellent safeguards out there on the African Tram. Some giraffes off in the distance down there. We talked about the giraffe eyesight a little bit earlier today, and even from this far away, those giraffes have got no trouble at all seeing us over here. Their eyesight is very good, even though we're very small compared to them. They can see us as well. Speaking of being very small, we have two springboks on the left-hand side, close relative to those gazelles you saw earlier today. And they look a little bit similar too. They're about the same size. I'll pull ahead a little bit more so everybody can see them. And they've also got that same kind of stripe pattern on their side like you saw with those Thompson gazelles. It's like light brown on top, black stripe in the middle, and then white on the belly. Having three stripes together that way kind of makes a little bit of an illusion. It makes their body look a little wider, makes them look a little bigger and thicker. And that's to kind of keep those cheetahs away. Cheetahs are kind of small compared to the other predators and cats out on the savannah. And cheetahs prefer to hunt very small prey. So if you're small like a springbok or small like a gazelle, you want to look a little bit bigger. Try and maybe trick those cheetahs into thinking that you might be too big to eat. By a feature that is actually not common on the African savannah, those automatic sprinklers. We do have it here at the park. During the summer, this is actually the place to be. All the animals hanging out under the sprinklers trying to keep cool. Of course, now in the winter, it's not going to be quite such a popular spot. Everyone's going to stay clear because they don't want to be too cold. Coming up on the left, we've got some elands. These great big heavy-bodied antelopes. In fact, the elands are the biggest antelope on the planet. These are the common or Patterson's elands. The only antelope species who can grow to the same size as these is actually going to be their close relative, the giant elands. They can top out at about 2,000 pounds, about 900 kilos for some of the bigger individuals. They've got those curly, almost corkscrew-shaped horns. They're going to be useful for a few different things. You might see a few of these antelope using those horns as a back scratcher. Okay, not right now, but they do it all the time, I promise. They can also use it to get food. They reach those curly, twisty horns up into a tree, get them tangled in a tree branch, and then just snap that branch off, drop it on the ground to get access to all that extra food they might not have been able to reach with their bounty. Over on the right-hand side, I'll pull it ahead a little bit more so we can see it. We've got some scimitar-horned oryxes. Those white-bodied antelope with the brown necks of the long, skinny horns. Coming from the Sahara up in North Africa, that desert climate, they're going to have that very light color to their fur. It's going to reflect some of that sunlight away, reflect off some of that heat, and help keep those antelopes from overheating. There's actually some belief that these oryxes here might have been one of the animals to inspire the myth of the unicorn. Some European traveler far away from home, visiting Africa, visiting the desert up in the north, might have seen some of these dazzling white four-legged animals from far, far away. Maybe he hadn't had enough water to drink, a little bit dizzy that day. And if you look at them from the side, those two horns can look like one horn. And if you're not familiar with antelopes, you don't know what you're looking at, I can see how somebody might mistakenly think that those were a mythical creature like a unicorn. So not only have we got the chubby unicorns out here at the park, but we may also have an species for unicorns. Speaking of wildlife and local wildlife, on the left-hand side we got a bobcat. It's got that little orange decal. It's got those long, big shreds. It's difficult terrain. I'm obviously joking a little bit. Of course, a little tractor. But this is the area where we usually get native animals. So if we want to keep our eyes out, we might see some deer, we might see some rabbits. We might even see some rhinos if we're coming by the rhino rescue center. Let's try one more time to see if southern white rhinos are out here.
Nothing here. No hiking.
Looks like the rhinos are not out yet, but we will continue on this road. We do have some other places where they live, and we might get one more chance to see them. Maybe see those endangered black rhinos a little bit earlier in the sport today. That would be a bit of a treat. The black rhinos, like many, many rhinos around the world, critically endangered because they're very, very often poached for their horns. There's a belief in some circles that rhino horns have special powers, so they might have medicinal properties. Unfortunately, that's not actually true. Rhino horns are made of keratin. Keratin is the same thing that makes up your fingernail. So if you kind of feel your thumbnail there, feel the texture, the same exact thing that composes a rhinoceros horn. Theirs, of course, is much, much bigger and it grows on their face. But that's why a rhino horn grows back whenever it breaks off. It's nothing special. It's just a great big thumbnail. So it grows back the same way that your own fingernails grow whenever you trim them shorter or happen to break one off. Coming back around toward the front here, so we have this big cavalcade of birds on the right-hand side, along with a few have those gazelles coming down the hill. So they can get down to the hut here. Little white grits, those very snowy white birds, the long necks. We see them all over the park. In fact, down by Okavango Terrace, that restaurant, there's lots and lots and lots of birds nesting in trees. Oh, and on our left-hand side, we got a South African cheetah relaxing shade back tree. I was telling the gazelle just a second ago, we talked about the cheetah. And now we get the cheetah. So like I mentioned, the cheetah's going to be built to speed 65 plus miles an hour when they are going flat out. But they can only do that for about 10 or 20 seconds before they get tired. So they're kind of like a drag racer. They can go fast, but not for very long. So that's why those spots come in handy. It helps them hide in the shade and the shadows, helps them sneak up close to those gazelles before they start running. The closer the cheetah can get before they run, the shorter distance they're going to have to run, the less likely they are to have to stop and get tired. A briefer chase is more likely to be successful for a cat, and a longer chase is more likely to be successful for the gazelle. We finally got some white rhinos living off on the right-hand side, all the way on top of that hill. They're a little bit off in the distance, but we have a crash of southern white rhinos. I kind of mentioned earlier that the animals like the black rhino are going to be a little bit more solitary, but the white rhino is going to live in a big group like that. And the reason they do that is because they're a grazer. They eat grass, they live out in the open where the grass is. And when you're out in the open, there's not a lot of bushes and trees, not a lot of places to hide a baby rhino. So when you live in a great big group, it doesn't really matter because you've got plenty of extra eyes and ears, plenty of adult supervision to help make sure the small rhinos stay safe. Got another tower of giraffe off in the distance as well there. Well, not too much in the distance, they're about halfway back. So we got a tower of giraffes, we got a crash of rhinos, we saw a flamboyance of flamingos, and a dazzle of zebras. A bunch of fun names for animal groups there, because anyone wants to take that little piece of trivia home with them. So as we round the corner here, we're going to be heading back towards